All right. So, hi, everybody. I'm Reverend Christie Bates in Oxford, Mississippi, and I'm excited because today I'm here with a local therapist. Although not in Mississippi, she's very close to us here in Oxford. Montoyia McGowan of Stopping the Chase Counseling and Consulting of Memphis is with us. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Montoyia is a licensed clinical social worker who provides premium psychotherapy services and mental wellness support in Memphis, Tennessee. She's a product of Memphis, and Montoyia is also a combat veteran, a mom, a wanderluster, a yogi with 200 hours of yoga teacher training. She's also an introvert and a recovering codependent. Montoyia loves to see Black people, and especially Black therapists, embrace their gifts and give to the world from a full cup. She helps empower her clients to stop the mentally exhausting cycle of chasing people, places, and things. And Montoyia, I understood that I invited you because you've trained in phase 1 and phase 2 of Brainspotting, and that you've fallen in love with Brainspotting so far. So thank you for doing this.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I really have enjoyed our Facebook connection. My algorithms are so like every time I open Facebook, what I get are people asking for referrals because I'm always busy on those groups. But every once in a while I get to poke around beyond that, and I get a kick out of your being friends with you on Facebook. And I really enjoyed getting into your website this week, which I wondered if you'd be willing to give us some quick psycho ed on the topic of bougie boundaries, which was on your website.
So bougie boundaries, because I am a recovering codependent, I don't know how far I am in my recovery, but it's the everyday struggle. I'm a recovering people pleaser. I'm a recovering good girl for the benefit of everybody else. And so for me, I started to realize that I was talking about bougie boundaries a lot. And then I said, okay, bougie boundaries and bougie energy. It was my way for me to remind myself that it's okay to have boundaries. It's okay to have, and to me, boundaries mean expectations.
Yeah.
So it's okay to have expectations that are luxury. It was kind of like me playing mind games with myself to the point to where I benefit from them, not where I'm beating myself up about it or making it seem like it's a boundary. So bougie boundaries is being mindful about what's healthy for me.
Yeah.
And processing what I want, what I don't want, what's good for me, processing it through myself first, and deciding on what to do with that. And so, like CBT is, you have a thought and then you have an action, but having feelings feels foreign to a lot of us, but the feelings determine what the next action is going to be. So me being bougie, I'm having to process things through my feelings because bougie really is just a luxury. And convincing myself that having feelings is a luxury makes me feel more willing to explore them. So it's just a
luxury you're worthy of. Yeah.
So having bougie boundaries and bougie energy, it means that if it doesn't benefit me, then I have to decide why I want to do it.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you. Well, what drew you to Brainspotting?
One of my therapist mentors told me one time, she said, you want to acquire tools and skills for your therapy practice that sets you apart. And one of those things that sets you apart is focusing on trauma, because we all have trauma. But when you have ways to help people work through some things faster, then that may set you apart from some other people. And so I did EMDR, and I don't know, it was something about EMDR. I wasn't able to grasp it as much. So I used a lot of the lingo, but not actually doing the processes or the protocol. But I saw somebody talking about brain spotting a couple of times, and I said, I wonder what that is. I'm just going to pay for it and see what happens. I had no idea what I was getting into, which I do that often. And I'm glad, because if I research it and look into it too much, I'll talk myself out of it.
Right, right.
So I found the group, I explored it, I signed up for it. And the first time when you're practicing brain spotting, when you're doing the practicums,
Yeah.
I said to myself, if I never use brain spotting, the help that I have gotten in the 3 days of me doing this is worth it.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I had not thought about that particular angle on, yes, when you're paying for the training, you're really also kind of paying for this built-in workshop where you're getting good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So, of course, I decided to do it again. So, phase two, and phase two, for some reason, it felt deeper, and I was able to connect with it more.
Mhm.
And then I just said, let me just see if some of my clients will be willing to try it.
Yeah.
And the ones that trust me, and I worked with them on brain spotting, it's been spiritual.
Yes. Yes. I get that totally. Yeah. Well, and it sounds like even the way you got into brain spotting is sort of because you're very in touch with that intuitive aspect of yourself, whereas maybe EMDR gave you some good tools, but maybe not as intuitive to use for you.
Right.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, that makes so much sense. With now I know I ask everybody this because everybody has their own way of doing it, but some of the clinicians or other helpers watching or hearing this may have heard the brain spotting, tagline that we always use, that where you look affects how you feel, but all of us have our own ways of introducing it probably. So when you're trying to introduce it to clients, how do you explain what this even is?
That is a very good question, because I asked a couple of people in the phase two training of
Mhm.
how do they introduce it to other people. So after I heard, I think 3 different people gave me 3 different answers, and I was like, okay, I got it. So as I'm listening to one of my clients talk, and we're getting to the part of the session where we want to do some work, I say, you know what? I think you would be a great candidate for this magic trick that I like to do.
Yeah.
It's my wand, and it's using the windows of your eyes. And I said, but it's not really magical. It's actually more spiritual. But if you are willing to trust me, are you open to trying something new? And I say yes, because they are comfortable with me. And
Yeah.
then that's when I start to explain some of the like what our session would look like. And oftentimes I give them a snippet of how it helped me and what I felt when I did it. And
Yeah.
then they're
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah. Now let me ask you, this may seem like a sidebar, but it's very much related. With you having that background as a veteran, and thank you for your service, by the way, I didn't say that earlier, but do you find that clients are drawn to you who are veterans, or do you
yeah.
have, yeah, yeah.
I used to work at the VA. I was at the VA for 13 years.
Yeah.
And learned that when clients will come in, or veterans will come in, and they find that you're a veteran, it kind of instantly gives you a different kind of connection, so they trust you more.
I would imagine. Yeah, that makes so much sense. Yeah. So then that would make sense that this thing there's that spiritual aspect, and at the same time, very nervous system, very like, I know one of the trainings, or, one of the workshops I attended at the international conference, I did that splurge last year, and it was so worth it. My brother lives out there too, so it was a good combination trip. But one of the workshops that I got to watch, when that was someone who works with first responders, veterans, people like that, and so she was saying, that sometimes, depending, maybe guys of a certain age or whatever, who are sort of anti-therapy, where she can just say, like, look, we're just going to reset your nervous system. Just, that they were more open to that. So I thought that was a really interesting way to approach.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, yeah. So that is cool. Well, the other thing that I wanted to ask is that, I mean, specific to brain spotting is, sometimes in the brain spotting trainings and the brain spotting community, we hear that brain spotting is not only a non-oppressive way of doing therapy, but it's actually anti-oppressive. And I'm wondering, do you, as a BIPOC therapist, do you find that to be true? Why should clients and therapists trust brain spotting?
I say, oppression doesn't even feel like it's a part of the process, or something that they have to be guarded about, because we are, like we say, at the tail of the comet. And so you're leading and I'm just slowly following you and pulling out some things from you. I'm not adding anything. I'm not giving you anything. I'm not adding to your perspective. We're just processing whatever is important to you and whatever comes up in our session. So I'm kind of like a guide. And it helps when you can understand some of the things that the person is saying, but you don't really have to.
Yeah, right. You can just be that mirror.
Yeah.
And let them see what they need to see.
Yeah. I don't really have to. So yeah, that was a good question. And I had to think about it for a minute, but yeah, we're just here as kind of like, the footprints.
Oh, right. Yeah. Beautiful. I was listening to your introductory podcast and you were giving the statistics about who's doing therapy in our country. And what can you share that, because partly, when I first moved to Mississippi and I Googled up brain spotting here, I was only one of 4 people that came up in Mississippi as trained in brain spotting. Now that was a year before the pandemic. So lots more people have gotten trained now. And so I'm sure it'd be a much better situation. But part of the reason that I even do this podcast and do the YouTube channel is just trying to get other clinicians out there trained, because just so that there's more of us out here. But what can you share that would help our listeners understand why it's valuable to have Black therapists, other BIPOC, other marginalized groups, A, represented among clinicians, and B, trained in brain spotting? Why would that be important from your viewpoint?
I think that it would be important because of the attunement aspect. When it comes to you being in tuned or attuned to the other person, even if you don't have a conversation with them, just the fact that you are able to understand what they're saying and some of the things that they're expressing is magical to me, because when I was doing the practicums, every person I was paired with, we had something in common and we had never met each other.
Right.
Relate to something in each other's story, even though you couldn't say anything. And the attunement is important to me. I think that's a great aspect of it. But also, I think that people of color, we have such different challenges. It helps to not have to explain the details of everything. I have to explain what I mean by saying this. A good example is when we say that, that's my cousin, but it's actually not really my cousin. We just grew up next door to each other. So when we say my play cousin, we understand the dynamics of how important that person is in your life because you chose to call them your play cousin.
Yeah. Right. That just because they're not blood related doesn't mean they're not family.
Right.
Yeah.
So just being able to understand the dynamics of some of the things without having to go into detail about them.
Yeah.
A friend, he is Filipino, and he talks about how it helps to talk to other people who have had some of the same struggles and same issues as him, because he's not white and he's also not Black. He's considered indigenous, but the issues that his culture experiences is kind of challenging to explain to some people sometimes.
Right. Because it's not something that either Black or white automatically understand. Yeah. So yeah, that's beautiful. How long have you been in private practice? You mentioned being at the VA 13 years.
Yeah, so I started private practice part-time in 2016. It's been 5 years this month.
Okay.
I've been full-time for a year, and I started my private practice from listening to podcasts.
Oh, cool.
I was looking for a podcast to help me study for the LCSW, and I
Yeah.
came across a podcast that talked about private practice, and I was thinking, what is private practice? I had never even thought about it or considered it.
Mhm.
And one of them had a checklist, and I said, let me just see if this is something that I might want to do. And so I started to explore it, and I thought I was working my dream job at the VA.
Mhm, mhm.
Then when I started doing private practice, I was booked up 2 to 3 weeks out every week for 3 years.
Oh my goodness.
And
Yeah.
so the anxiety of trying to manage a full-time job and a private practice that I didn't expect to take off as much as it did,
Right.
I had to make a choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. And so over the last year, you're
Mhm.
saying is when you made that choice to just be full-time with it. Yeah.
Yep.
Now, when did the consulting part come in? The part about you helping other therapists make that decision?
So when I was listening to these podcasts and they were telling you to think about the name that you want to come up with for your practice,
Yeah.
they said always put consulting at the end of it because people are going to start asking you, how did you do that? And so start out in the beginning with that in mind. You don't have to if you don't want to, but it's still an option.
Gotcha.
And I had a lot of different people reach out to me and ask me how was I doing what I was doing. And I was just giving away my time for free because I'm thinking, this is so easy. I could just tell you, these are the things that you need to do. It's
Right.
not difficult or challenging as we had decided that it was.
Yeah.
And then that became overwhelming too. So I was like, wait, I might need to put a price on this just a little bit, just to kind of slow it down.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So that, yes. So you're not getting every single phone call that comes in, but also if you do, then your time's being valued and yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's nice.
People like to say, let me pick your brain, but it ends up being an hour and a half conversation. Hey, then I gotta go. And then I feel guilty that I didn't have bougie boundaries.
Right. 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 Yeah. Yeah.
It also helps people to kind of respect the value that you add to the time that you choose to give to them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. With people that are working in, whether they ever intend to do private practice or not, people that are working in, different mental health settings, treatment center settings, or whatever, I mean, I have my own experience of that, but what would you say to them about Brainspotting?
I would say that it's definitely worth the investment of adding to you being able to, a lot of us are in this business because we're great at being helpers and rescuers. But the way that we're able to help in such a fast amount of time is so rewarding that 1 hour of you doing brain spotting with somebody could save them months of mental anguish.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you find, I'll just ask you this, because I think for me, I find that it actually is helpful. It's like a preventative to burnout because I don't feel like I mean, I definitely have to take care of myself because it's, just eye to eye exposing yourself to a lot of trauma. But so I definitely do things to take care of myself, like my own brain spotting and things like that. But I do find that having brain spotting is a tool where I can let the client do their work, but I don't feel like I'm doing heavy lifting, if that makes sense. Do you find that?
Mm-hmm. It's been a little different for me lately, the past week or so, where there's been what somebody explained to me, there's been dual attunement, and I to expect that. So I'm having to do a lot more self-care. But I do find that it's a lot easier. The thing that I found that is helpful the most is people start to understand how we're all connected, like every system is connected. So you're thinking about something and you're looking at something and you're feeling sensations. So you actually have more control than you think you do. But it's kind of like a visual of helping them understand the importance of, you can't just exercise and expect things to get better. You got to do, all of the parts of you, because they all go together.
Oh, nice.
He's thinking, okay, so what I eat can affect what I'm thinking, or what I'm thinking about affects what I'm eating. And physical exercise and cortisol levels and the polyvagal theory, all of those things go together.
Yeah. Do you have plans to continue Brainspotting trainings?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't know if you already belong to SEBI, that Southeast Brainspotting Institute. They have, I think the membership is like $120 for a year, but they are constantly putting out these 1-hour trainings that are free for SEBI members. So, and then also once you're a member, you get on their website and there's the archive of the previous trainings. So on all kinds of subjects, Brainspotting and parts word, Brainspotting, and yeah. So I'm mentioning that partly for you, but also partly for anybody listening, that's for anybody that I think you just have to have at least phase 1 to be a member there, and then to be able to access all that. So the other cool thing about them is that they have, I say we, I guess I should say we, because I'm a member as well, but so we're in the Southeast area, and there's a few other institutes in different parts of the country. The Rocky Mountain Brainspotting Institute, Midwest Brainspotting Institute. But at SEBI, there's like once a year or twice a year, they have these fellowships that they grant where people apply for Brainspotting training, or, so people that work with marginalized populations or whatever. So, so I'm just kind of spreading the word about that. So when you're talking to your therapist friends and stuff too, it'd be.
Yeah. The other thing I like about Brainspotting is sometimes people of color struggle with going to somebody who's not of color because they feel like they may not be understood.
Right.
Or have to explain too much that they're not comfortable with, or they don't know how to explain. Yeah. But therapists that are not of color who use Brainspotting, it's a way to continue to foster connection with the clients that you have. Right. So, you're able to kind of remove that issue out of the therapeutic relationship.
Yeah. Well, and that's interesting too, because part of what that brings up for me is how I have some clients that will come to me with something that they've been to other therapists about, and they'll just say, I'm so exhausted of telling this story. And I'm like, then don't tell me the story. Where do you feel it in your body? Let's go, Right. Yeah. And yeah. And they can just do the work, and I can support them in being mindfully aware of watching their brain and body and heal it. And they not only do they not have to relive every awful detail, but they don't have to explain anything to me.
Right.
So, yeah. No, that's a fabulous point that you bring up. Yeah. Well, is there any final words that you want to share about Brainspotting, or just about your own private practice in general before we go?
No, other than there's always something to work on.
Yeah.
Always an issue.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah.
Thinking about, like, one of the last things that I worked on was me not having healthy boundaries as a parent.
Yeah.
And that led me to realizing that I was so focused on teaching my children how to treat other people that I neglected to be intentional about teaching them how to treat me. Right. I was hoping that it would be a byproduct of, well, if I told you to do this for other people, then you should apply that to me. Yeah. But I wasn't intentional about that. And so that goes back to bougie boundaries, but bougie boundaries as a parent. And now I'm starting to, like, every day see how I could do some things differently, or just a little tweak here or a little tweak there. And so to anybody who is considering brain spotting, do it.
Nice. Yeah. Well, Montoyia McGowan, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and encouraging professionals to seek this training. Is it okay for people to contact you through your website? Or if people have questions, if they want to explore doing work with you, it's stoppingthechase.com.
Yep.
And so thanks again, and I look forward to talking to you later.
Thank you.